Joining us now to discuss the top political and news stories of the day, Bill Caruso is a Democrat strategist and attorney. Also with us is LaToya Nkongolo, is a Project 21 ambassador and a District 31 delegate of the Maryland General Assembly. Great to have you both this morning. Appreciate your time. Bill, starting with you, we heard that report here. I mean, things are heating up, of course, still in Ukraine, despite President Trump's efforts to bring peace to the region and an end to the war. Your reaction to that report from Shelby?
Yeah, I'm frustrated, and I think most Americans are. I mean, you say heating up. In two different regions in the world, it looks like things are starting to spiral out of control again. You know, you have Ukraine and Russia, and the president promised on day one he was going to resolve these. And I don't think, listen, I don't take that as a literal comment. But here we are 6 months into this term, and we're not making progress. We're moving backwards to some extent. And I think he's limited in some of the options. We've been limited in some of the options of what we can deploy, whether it's trade sanctions or increased military force. And similarly, we're covering this horrible attack on Israel again. And that region, struggling to find peace, to find some sense of calm there. Things are worse inside of Palestine, inside of Gaza right now. And now it's still starting to spread back over to Israel. So, we're troubled here. I think both as people that love peace, as Americans that want to see peace in both those regions, I think American citizens are getting frustrated at the lack of resolution in both of those areas.
You know, LaToya, the thing is that some people are not happy if President Trump takes immediate military action. Then they're not happy if he tries diplomacy. President Trump looks at the situation and he throws out the old playbook. But in this situation, he actually tried diplomacy. And now, being that diplomacy did not work, did not bring Putin to the table to a ceasefire and broker a peace deal going forward, now he's actually engaging in not only sanctions against Russia, but also whoever does business with Russia with regard to energy. That's leadership. Perhaps people are just not aware of a different approach instead of the same thing over and over and over.
Right. And his approach is innovative. You know, when people aren't used to things being done conventionally, then they don't know what to expect, and they tend to expect the worst. But what he's doing is remaining steadfast in his commitment to ending conflict. He's showing true leadership by bringing allies to the table. And if that doesn't work, then he has to act. And that's what a true leader does.
Yeah. Well, back here stateside, turning to national news, President Trump making it clear he means business here as well, talking about it on Truth Social, writing, quote, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning. Chicago's about to find out why it's called the Department of War." This post included a parody image of President Trump in a Shypocalypse Now spoof. Your reaction, Bill, I'm sure you thought it was just as funny as I did.
I didn't, actually.
Okay.
And listen, I get the joke sometimes. You guys, I hope, think I'm not one of these Looney Tune partisans that come on here, but I'm actually somewhat supportive of this effort. I've been on your show talking about the success that we've seen in D.C. despite some of the concerns. But this is the worst of Donald Trump. You know, he's on something here. We're providing some support, whether or not these locals want it or not, and actually on these 80-20 issues he's winning. But this is the stupid part of it. This is the United States of America. We're declaring war against the United States city, even on the hyperbolic side of it. It's a dumb image. I get it. It's to dunk on the libs and all those things. But this is not leadership. This is the United States of America. He is the president. We don't declare war on our own country. It's insane.
You know what, Bill? I do agree with what you're saying. The thing is, he was trying to make. He was trying to be funny. He was trying to be funny, and I think it landed incorrectly. But the purpose of going into Chicago, let's not forget that part. Sometimes people can actually trip up, maybe say something that's inaccurate or maybe off color, or send an email that's not received well. But the intention, we all know that President Trump is moving forward to address a long-standing problems that many local politicians and his predecessors refused to actually address. So I don't think we should lose sight on that part of leadership and not let a meme be the talk of the day. That's how I
Agreed.
see it.
The
How do you
vision
see
is
it,
important.
LaToya?
I agree. I believe the message was missed. I believe that people were distracted by the meme, but ultimately we want safe communities.
Right.
That's the goal. I live between Baltimore City and Washington D.C., and I frequent those cities, and I can tell you D.C. is a lot safer today than it was just a month ago.
Right.
So let's not lose sight of the goal here, and it is to create safer cities.
So true.
I mean, I'm not distracted by the image. I think I'm more distracted with the statistics. This past weekend, there were 7 people who were shot in Chicago, 15 were shot dead, 15 people who were killed. So if the image is trying to portray what is actually going to come, which is safety, security, what we've seen in the past 12 days in D.C., President Trump making major headway there, I think maybe that's more important than the messaging, the actions, which we have yet to see from any of the Democrat leaders. But I want to shift now to everyone's favorite Maryland man, Kilmar Albrego Garcia. He could be heading to southern Africa, the nation of Eswatini. The Trump administration announced the plan this weekend after lawyers for the accused MS-13 member claimed he faces persecution in Uganda. So why are so many Democrats still, Bill, rallying behind this particular immigrant's case? We know that he, even among the MS-13 gang community, has been shunned for his actions against young children, the alleged claims he's a domestic abuser. Why are they still behind him?
This is like an episode of Where in the World is Kilmar Garcia now?
Right.
Every time I come on here, he's going somewhere else. Listen, I think that's part of the issue, though. And, this is a hard one. I think I said this previous on the air. It's a hard one to defend this guy, given the allegations. I think there's still allegations of what he's been accused of. But it doesn't negate the issues here on a more global level of due process and frankly, a plan. And where are we going? And, and I think this example is a larger example of what is the deportation plan? Where are these folks going? What are the due process rights? And then what are the due processes actually afforded these folks before they are deported? And some of these folks need to be deported. Some of these folks need to be incarcerated. But I think some of the concern you're seeing, mostly on the Democrat side, has been about that, the process, and then, frankly, where do they end up? And what rights do they have along the way? And I think that's a fair question, but I think it's also working itself out both through the courts. I think, listen, if people are screaming about the end of democracy and all that, democracy's working. The courts are working, the process is working, and this person's going to have a fair hearing.
I am so tired of talking about Garcia, such that I'm moving on. And less serious news, President Trump once again showing he's a man of the people. He was at the U.S. Open men's final in Queens yesterday, watching Carlos Alcaraz take on, was it Yannick
Sinner? Yep.
Yannick Sinner. This is coming just days after legacy media reports that Trump claimed he was on his last legs. Like, this is ridiculous. A stark contrast, right? So I guess when the media runs down this false narrative, Trump has to come out, show everybody, look, I'm actually stronger and better than ever before. So why do the Democrats, or why does legacy media constantly run with these false narratives, LaToya, and yet, again, President Trump comes out and puts them to shame?
Well,
it's ridiculous.
Let him put them to shame. I mean, this is what we need. We need, at this point, what Republicans need to do is expose the truth, expose the fake news. And even if we have to come from the back end and have to prove once again, we're right. And, we're on the right side of the issues. And, that's just what we need to do at this point.
Yeah, it was a great showing, Bill. I don't know if you're a tennis fan. I was watching a lot of the matches over the weekend, but President Trump is the second president to have attended the U.S. Open. Bill Clinton was the only other one, but he did go previously in his unofficial capacity over the years. So it was exciting to see him back at the match, the men's finals. I do think he was in favor of Sinner at the end. He seemed a little disappointed that Alcaraz won. But the mainstream media, to John's point, was still reporting that people were booing him and that a lot of the celebrities who were there were miffed that they had to wait an extra 30 minutes for the President of the United States. Were you watching the match yesterday, Bill?
I was not. I was down on a kayak paddling. But let me say this to you. I think all those things are true and all those things are good. And John, I disagree with you on the the fact that he's had to come out. If Joe Biden had done that, and remember, there were concerns about Joe Biden. We talked about them here. But Joe Biden didn't show up on those things, to show up to the American public and put out. And that's the job. The job is showing up half the time. And so he's got to do that. I think he has been doing that. And listen, he went to this thing. There were some people that were miffed. There were some boos. There were some cheers. And yes, some people had to wait in line to get there. It took a little longer. And God bless some of the celebrities that didn't get concierged in. That happened. Those are facts. Too bad. But yeah, he did show up, and he had a good time there. And the American public saw that.
You know what, LaToya? It's clear that Bill Caruso missed my serve. Because what I was serving up, right, was the fact that not that Trump doesn't show up, because we know that he does. That is the point. He actually shows up. So Bill actually missed my serve, but actually got my point. And I'm glad you brought up Bill, I'm glad you brought up Biden, because Biden did not show up. That was the problem. And I'm not just talking about showing up at sporting events. He was absent, hence the auto pen, hence the numerous questions, hence the enormous vacation days while the world was on fire and as our local economy was blowing up with hyperinflation. So the thing is, it is very clear that the media runs with these false narratives instead of focusing on the facts and what the American people really care about, LaToya.
What I can say is that the media thrives off of people being emotional, fear, anger. That's what they thrive off of. So, a lot of the stories that you see put out really drive people's emotions. And, people are not focused on the facts, the real issues.
True.
That's what the media doesn't want them to focus on. The reality is that most of us just want to be able to put food on our table. We want to be able to, send our kids to college, have a strong economy. Those are the kitchen table topics that I'm having with my constituents, because that's the reality for most of us. And we need leaders that are going to prioritize our needs and, and not focus so much on the media, and for people to not focus so much on the media.
And I'll just add one more thing. Walk down safe streets. That's key.
Basic. Bill Caruso, LaToya Nkongolo, thank you so much for joining us this Monday morning.
Have a great day.
You too.